A baby was dying in a mansion that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Surrounded by specialists flown in from Switzerland, Japan, and Johns Hopkins, 8-month-old Virginia Parker was starving to death. And nobody could stop it. Her mother, Therese, had tried everything. Every formula. Every bottle. Even medicine forced through tubes. But Virginia wouldn't eat. For 8 days, nothing passed her lips. Her tiny body was disappearing. 13 pounds now. Down from 18. The nursery looked like a private ICU. Monitors beeped. 4 stands lined the walls. The best medical equipment money could buy filled every corner. But none of it mattered. Therese sat on the floor, trembling, her designer clothes wrinkled and stained. She'd stopped sleeping. Stopped eating herself. Virgil Parker, billionaire, pharmaceutical empire heir, a man who solved every problem with money, stood at the window, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care if he's with the president. Get Dr. Simmons on a plane now." His voice cracked. "Tell him to save my baby girl." Hospital admission was scheduled for tonight. The last resort. Time was running out. And then, through the garden window, someone was watching. Before we continue this story, answer me this. Where are you watching from right now? And what time is it there? I love knowing how far these stories travel. And if you're already hooked, smash that like button and subscribe because we drop stories like this every single week. Prepare yourself because this story is going to rip your heart out and put it back together in ways you never expected. Karen pressed her face against the cold iron fence, her breath fogging in the evening air. She'd walked past the Parker mansion 100 times. Maybe more. It sat on the hill like a castle made of glass and money, so different from the crumbling apartment she shared with her mother 3 blocks away. Most days, Karen didn't look up at it. She was too busy. Returning bottles for nickels. Walking Mrs. Chen's dogs for $5. Picking up groceries for old Mr. Williams when his knees hurt too bad. Anything to help Mama with the rent. Anything to buy her medicine. Sometimes, though, Karen would slip through the garden when no one was watching. Rich people threw away the most incredible things. Last month, she'd found a perfectly good teddy bear in their trash. Mama cried when Karen brought it home, but happy tears. Tonight was different. Tonight Karen heard something that made her stomach twist. Crying. Not normal baby crying. Not the angry wails she heard from the twins downstairs or the fussy whimpers from the daycare on 5th Street. This was desperate. Weak. Like something dying. Karen's hands gripped the fence bars. She shouldn't care. Rich people had their own problems. They didn't need some poor kid from the wrong side of the hill staring at their business. But the crying wouldn't stop. It pulled at something deep in her chest, something she couldn't name. An ache. A need. Before she could think it through, Karen was climbing. Her worn sneakers found the decorative scrollwork. Her small hands pulled her up and over. She dropped into the garden, heart pounding. The crying was louder now. Closer. Karen didn't understand why she was doing this. She only knew she couldn't walk away. The garden door was unlocked. Karen's hand trembled as she pushed it open. Every instinct screamed at her to run. This was trespassing. This was crazy. If they caught her, they'd call the police. Maybe worse. But that crying. She followed it through marble hallways that echoed with her footsteps. Past paintings worth more than her entire building. Past furniture that looked like it belonged in museums. The crying led her to a room bathed in cold white light. Karen froze in the doorway. A baby lay in a crib surrounded by machines. Monitors beeped. Tubes snaked across tiny arms. The infant's skin looked gray, almost translucent. The woman from the magazines, Therese Parker, sat hunched in a chair, her face buried in her hands. The man paced near the window, his voice sharp as he spoke to a screen where doctors in white coats gestured and argued. Nobody noticed Karen. The baby's cry was barely a whisper now. Weak. Fading. Something broke inside Karen's chest. Without thinking, she moved to the crib. Her hand found a small stuffed elephant lying forgotten on the side table. She picked it up, made it dance. "Hey there, little one," Karen whispered. She started humming. The lullaby Mama sang when Karen couldn't sleep. When the fear got too big. When the world felt too heavy. "Hush now, baby, don't you cry. Mama's gonna sing you a lullaby." Karen made a silly face, wiggling the elephant's trunk. The crying stopped. The baby's eyes, dull and lifeless moments before, focused on Karen's face. And then, for the first time in 8 days, Virginia Parker reached out. Her tiny fingers wrapped around Karen's thumb. Behind her, Therese Parker gasped. "Who are you?" Virgil's voice exploded across the room. His phone clattered to the floor. Therese shot to her feet, her face a mask of shock and horror. "Get away from my baby! Security!" Karen stumbled backward, terror flooding her veins. "I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I just heard. Don't move!" Virgil lunged forward. But then he stopped. Because Virginia was smiling. Not the weak, pained grimace they'd seen for 8 days. A real smile. Her eyes bright and focused on the strange girl backing toward the door. "Wait," Therese breathed. "Wait, look at her." Virginia's tiny hand was still reaching, grasping for Karen. Making small cooing sounds they hadn't heard in over a week. Therese's hands shook as she grabbed the bottle from the table. The same bottle Virginia had refused 30 times today. She moved toward her daughter, hardly daring to breathe. "Please," she whispered to no one. To God. To anyone listening. She touched the bottle to Virginia's lips. And Virginia drank. She drank like she'd been waiting for permission. Like something had finally unlocked inside her tiny body. Therese's sob tore through the room. Virgil stood frozen, his hand over his mouth, tears streaming down his face. "Oh my God!" Therese gasped. "Oh my God, she's drinking! Virgil, she's—" Karen edged toward the door. This was her chance. While they were distracted. While they were crying over their baby. She'd almost made it to the hallway when Therese's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. "Please!" Therese's voice cracked. Her eyes were wild, desperate, pleading. "Please don't go." She looked at Karen like she was staring at a miracle she couldn't understand. "What did you do?" Karen sat on the edge of an armchair that probably cost more than her entire life, staring at the 2 desperate strangers offering her things that made no sense. $500, Virgil repeated. "Every day you come." Karen's mind couldn't process the number. That was more than Mama made in 2 weeks at the laundromat. That was rent. Medicine. Food for a month. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I just sang to her. Whatever you did, she needs it." Therese knelt in front of Karen, her expensive perfume overwhelming. "Please. Come back tomorrow. Just for an hour. My mama's sick. I have to. We'll pay for her treatment." Virgil cut in. His desperation made him sharp. "Whatever she needs. The best doctors. Everything." Karen's heart hammered. This couldn't be real. The next day, she came back through the garden door. Virginia had refused breakfast, lunch, every bottle. The moment Karen walked in humming that lullaby, the baby's face lit up. She ate. The doctors on the video screen looked baffled. "There's no medical explanation," one said. "The child's vitals are normal. She should be eating." But she only ate for Karen. A week passed. Then 2. Same routine. Karen would slip in after school, sing, play, make silly faces. Virginia would laugh, eat, thrive. Virgil pulled Karen aside one evening, his voice low and urgent. $500 a day. Cash. But there's a condition." His eyes were hard now, businessman eyes. "No one can know about this. Not your friends. Not your mother's friends. Not the neighbors. No one." "Why?" "Because people wouldn't understand." He pressed an envelope thick with bills into her hand. "Do we have a deal?" Karen looked at the money that could save her mother's life. Deal. 3 months passed like a secret tucked inside Karen's chest. Every day after school, she'd slip through that garden door. Every day, Virginia's face would light up like Karen had hung the moon just for her. The baby was thriving now. 17 pounds. Rosy cheeks. Laughter that filled the sterile nursery with something it had never held before: joy. I have a tutoring job, Karen told her mother, hating the lie but loving what it bought. Mama's medicine. Real groceries. Heat that didn't cut off midwinter. Mama was getting better. Strong enough to smile again. Karen would sit on the nursery floor with Virginia, stacking blocks and singing silly songs. Pat cake, baker's man. Virginia would clap her chubby hands and squeal with delight. From the doorway, Therese watched. She watched this poor child in worn sneakers make her daughter laugh. She watched Virginia reach for Karen with an eagerness she never showed her own mother. It felt like swallowing glass. One afternoon, Therese tried. She sat down with the blocks, attempted the same sing-song voice Karen used. Virginia's face crumpled. She cried until Karen came back. I don't understand, Therese whispered to Virgil that night. I'm her mother. Virgil had no answer. Just discomfort and something that looked like shame. Karen never asked why they hid her visits. Never questioned the thick envelopes of cash or the strange way Therese looked at her, half grateful, half resentful. She just came every day, played with a baby who loved her, and pretended not to notice the expensive toys gathering dust in the corner. Virginia didn't want expensive toys. She wanted the girl who sang to her. The girl who saw her as more than a problem to solve. The girl who made her feel safe. Jerry Scholes swirled his wine and studied the baby on Therese's lap with the calculating eyes of a man who made millions reading people. Miraculous recovery, he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Last I heard, Virginia was on death's door. Now look at her. Thriving. We were blessed, Virgil said carefully. Blessed. Jerry's eyebrow arched. Or did you find some secret treatment? New pharmaceutical breakthrough? You'd tell your business partner about something like that, wouldn't you, Virgil? Just got lucky. She started eating. How convenient. Jerry didn't believe in luck. He believed in leverage. And something about Virgil's evasiveness made his instincts hum. He left that night through the front entrance, then circled back through the gardens. Old habit. Never trust what people showed you at the front door. That's when he saw her. A scrawny kid in ratty clothes, slipping out through the garden door like a thief. She couldn't be more than 12. Definitely not one of the staff, too young, too poorly dressed. Jerry watched her scale the fence and disappear into the neighborhood. The next day, he came back. Parked down the street. Waited. 3:30. There she was again. Climbing over the fence, disappearing inside. Day 3. Same thing. Day 4. Jerry started taking photos. His lip curled as he zoomed in on her worn sneakers, her second-hand jacket. What was a street kid doing in the Parker mansion every single day? The possibilities made him smile. Virgil Parker, pharmaceutical billionaire, letting some poor nobody into his home daily. Around his infant daughter. In secret. This was either incredibly stupid or incredibly scandalous. Either way, Jerry could use it. He opened a new folder on his phone. Parker liability. Time to find out what his partner was hiding. Therese stood in the nursery doorway, frozen by what she was witnessing. Karen sat cross-legged on the floor, Virginia nestled in her lap. In her hands was a battered library book, pages worn soft from 100 readings, the cover held together with tape. And the bunny said, I love you all the way to the moon. Karen read, her voice warm and tender. Virginia gazed up at her with absolute adoration. Her tiny hand patted Karen's cheek. Something cracked open in Therese's chest. This wasn't a job to Karen. This wasn't $500 a day. Karen loved her daughter. And Virginia, God, the way Virginia looked at this poor child in worn sneakers, she loved Karen back. The realization was devastating. After Karen left, Therese picked up the library book with trembling hands. She sat down, pulled Virginia into her lap the way Karen had. "Want Mama to read to you, sweetheart?" Virginia's face crumpled instantly. She arched her back, reaching for the door where Karen had gone. Her cries were sharp, angry. "Please, baby. It's me. I'm your mother." But Virginia wouldn't calm. Wouldn't settle. She screamed until her face turned red, until Therese's own tears mixed with her daughter's. Virgil found them like that, his wife sobbing on the floor, their daughter wailing in her arms. "She hates me," Therese choked out. "Our own daughter hates me." "She doesn't." "She does. She wants Karen. Not me. Never me." Therese's voice broke. "What kind of mother am I that my baby prefers a 12-year-old stranger?" Virgil had no answer. The truth sat between them, ugly and undeniable. They had everything money could buy. But they'd never learn how to give what Karen gave freely. Love without conditions. Presence without distraction. The things that actually mattered. The Parker Foundation Gala was in full swing, 200 of the city's elite sipping champagne under crystal chandeliers. Virginia had been fussy all evening until they'd snuck Karen into the kitchen. Just for 20 minutes. Just to calm the baby before the speeches. Karen sat hidden in the pantry, eating fancy cookies she'd never tasted before, waiting for her signal to slip back out. Then Jerry Scholes took the stage. "Before Virgil gives his speech, I think we all deserve some transparency." His smile was poison. "About what's really happening in the Parker household." Virgil's face drained of color. The massive screen behind Jerry flickered to life. Photos. Karen climbing the fence. Karen entering through the garden door. Karen in worn clothes, looking exactly like what she was, a poor kid from the wrong neighborhood. Date stamps. Times. Weeks of documentation. "What exactly?" Jerry's voice carried across the silent ballroom. "Is this street urchin doing with your infant daughter every single day, Virgil?" The words hung in the air like an accusation. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers exploded. "Is this some kind of... in front of a baby? What were they thinking?" Therese stood frozen, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. Shame and horror warred on her face. Virgil couldn't speak. Couldn't move. In the kitchen, Karen heard everything. Street urchin. The words hit like fists. Like every cruel thing she'd ever been called, amplified through expensive speakers for rich people to judge. She looked down at her clothes. The nicest things she owned, and they still weren't good enough. She'd been stupid to think she belonged here. Stupid to think they actually cared. Karen ran. Out the kitchen door, through the garden, over the fence. She ran until her lungs burned and tears blurred her vision. She never looked back. The ballroom waited for Virgil's response. Jerry's smirk widened. He'd won. Then Virgil stepped forward. "That street urchin," his voice cracked then steadied, "saved my daughter's life when all my money couldn't." The room went silent. Virginia was dying. 8 days without eating. Specialists from 3 continents. Millions in medical care. Nothing worked. Virgil's hands shook. Then Karen, that 12-year-old girl you're all so disgusted by, she climbed our fence because she heard my baby crying. She sang to her. And Virginia ate. Therese was crying openly now. She came every day for 4 months. Not because we paid her. Because she loved our daughter when we didn't know how to. Gasps. Murmurs. Jerry's smile faltered. An elderly man stood in the back, Dr. Smith, retired pediatrician, respected voice in medical circles. "The child provided what medicine couldn't," he said quietly. "Genuine human connection. Your daughter wasn't starving physically. She was starving emotionally." The words landed like stones in water, rippling outward. Jerry's face turned red. "This is absurd." "No," Therese found her voice. "It's the truth. Karen gave our daughter what we couldn't. Love without condition. Presence without distraction. She looked at the crowd, at the judgment on their faces. And if that disgusts you, then you can leave. 6 months later. Karen sat in the garden where it all began, Virginia toddling between her legs, giggling as they played with that old library book. Again! Virginia demanded, her vocabulary growing daily. From the window, Therese watched, tears streaming down her face. But different tears now. Grateful ones. The house was warmer now. Less sterile. More laughter. Karen had a trust fund for college. Her mother had the treatment she needed. But more than that, Virginia had what every child needed. Someone who saw her. Really saw her. Not money. Not status. Just love. Before you go, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been judged for who you are instead of what you can give? Have you ever felt invisible until someone finally saw you? Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe because we drop powerful stories like this every single week. Stories about real people, real struggles, and the moments that change everything. What should we cover next? A teacher who discovers a student's devastating secret? A homeless man who saves a family and changes their world forever? You tell me. The next story drops in 3 days, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, remember this: sometimes the people we overlook are the ones with the power to save us. See you in the next one.